Okay, so I crossed out this last statement here in the part C. I think it's better and illustrated in part D here. Let's look at part D. Transform the summer camp cost equation, which is this guy right here, into function notation using the function name f. Then use the newly formed function notation equation to calculate cost values for given input values, which we don't need function notation to do that. I mean, we can calculate cost values with this guy just fine given an n value, but again, the idea is to introduce you to this idea of function notation. So let me give you the syntax for calculating or rearranging an equation into function notation. Here, before we took this table of values and wrote those guys, that same information as function notation. But when you're taking an equation and writing it in function notation, it has the same structure or syntax, just a couple different things. That first space takes on the name of the function. Inside here is actually more general, the input variable. Here it was the input value since we had specific values. When you take it from an equation into function notation, you have the input variable here, and likewise we don't have a corresponding output variable, but what we do have is the expression that calculates output values. So keep that in mind as we talk here. So let's build this structure using this equation. So we're going to have an equal sign, a set of parentheses, and then 3 spaces to fill. That one, and that one. So this first one here is the function name. For us, it is f. Can be any letter we choose. F, G, H, P, whatever we fill, whatever's given to us. What goes in here is the input variable. So in this equation, what is the input variable? Is it C or is it N? Hopefully you're thinking it's N. So N goes in there, and on the right side goes the expression that calculates output values. Well, in our original equation, what expression calculates C values? What expression? And hopefully you're thinking, well, that does. For a given value of n, that's what will calculate it, and that expression is what goes here. So let's review. Function name, input variable, and then expression that calculates output values. And so this is in function notation. This is equation notation. This is read f of n equals 1200 plus 25n. So you could read it this way. F takes the input variable n and then assigns this operation, these operations to do to n to get output values. So let me do one here. I'm just going to take one. Let's say f of 200. So this was part of our problem here. Let's calculate some costs. Well, f of 200 means replace the variable n with 200. So let me write this, our function notation. And so how would we go about calculating the cost for 200 campers? Well, you'd plug it in there, right, and then evaluate. So let me write it that way. I'm just going to replace n there in the parentheses and then replace it over on the right side with 200 and evaluate. So 1200 plus 25, that gives me 6200. So look at our function f assigns to 200 campers 6200 cost. That's what we should think of that as. So if I were to ask you to write a sentence, which I will on an exam in your activities, what would be the interpretation of this? You would write, if you have 200 campers, your cost will be $6,200. Or the cost for 200 campers is $6,200. That's how you would write that interpretation.